I have a friend who gives me golden nuggets. Let me explain. I'm Shelley with the God's Goodness podcast. If you've listened to the podcast, you've heard me mention Jen O'Donnell, and Jen mentioned something this week, and I want to tell you what it expanded into. It's nuts. So she texted me and she said, "Did you ever hear of Christian podcasters?" That's all she messaged me, and listen to what came out of it. So I looked up Christian podcasters and it came up with like the top Christian podcasts. Ours is going to be there one day. In the meantime, I also found Christian podcasters in Facebook. It's a group. And I have someone booked from, I was in a booking slump. Like, God has a very specific order who comes on when. And I couldn't for the life of me get the next booking. I had a whiteout. There were no bookings. But I started thanking God for all the bookings I had for the end of the year. And I was like, thank you so much, God, for all the bookings on my books. And even though there were none. And I knew that once I booked the next right person, everything would fall into place. And it did. So I was talking with Ian Reith. If you listen to the podcast, you know him. His episode is Choose Whom You Will Serve. Jen's episode is For the Good. Anyway, it turns out Ian was the next person who needed to be on the podcast. Once I booked Ian, I got 2 more bookings within minutes. And so the booking slump was over and we're on the right track again. When we moved in August, it made everything go haywire and just there were no routines, and we were trying to keep everything normal with the podcast and still move. And it was just a very busy month. So we're back on track. And then, so we got a booking and then 2 more bookings. And then from the Christian podcasters group, I booked somebody from the UK. So that's really neat. And so I'm hoping it works because we can record remotely with everything else. We're going to use a different technology than the regular phones. But anyway, we'll work those out. At some point, I found the In Faith app. It looks like this. And in it, I found somebody I follow on TikTok, Barbara Frone. If you've seen her, I love her messages, her videos, and she's an author of 2 books. And it turns out you can message people in there even if they're not following you back. So I messaged her and I connected with her, and she's booked for the podcast as well. So I'm really excited about that. And it's really fun to book people that you follow because then you get to know them a little bit better and share it. And that's the point, is sharing God's goodness and modern day miracles. So if you haven't listened to the podcast, check it out. But back on track. From Jen's little thing, I got all my bookings handled and then some. And then also, we're going to get connected with the In Faith app people, and the podcast is going to be there, and we're going to release episodes. So you'll have another platform you can listen to the episodes from and just follow along. And I'm really excited about that. So God is moving. He is moving things along. And that blessing from season 2, episode 1, the end of the podcast episode, they do a blessing, and it's in English and Spanish. So it's a blessing for double blessings, and it's in 2 languages. So God is working. So follow along if you're not already. And if you're still here, thanks for listening and letting me share with you. And I'm just really excited about what God has in store because it's going to be good.